This is the most difficult thing I've tried to review so far, the Simgot Fermat EA1000. The quality of the build and finish would be spectacular at almost any price point for an IEM. The IEMs themselves are almost fully metal and on the heavier end of the scale. Each unit is engraved with the word Fermat, and either the letter L or R, and yes, these letters are engraved, I checked. The faceplate is coated in glass, which is, as you'd expect, as eye-catching as it is difficult to keep perfectly clean. Provided are 3 different types of exchangeable nozzles, which I think are machined extremely well. They're very easy to screw on or off, and difficult to over-tighten with the provided silicone O-rings. More on the differences between the nozzles later. The silver cable is an improvement over the lower-end models. The bulk of the twisted part of the cable is highly tangle resistant. However, after the Y-split, I found that the 2 cables were quite prone to twisting and tangling, although not particularly more than average compared to other IEMs. The cable is also finished with what appears to be a shiny metallic ribbon. I'll leave the final opinion of taste to the individual, but I can honestly say that the whole product, in all its gaudiness, does have a significant wow effect, like a piece of shiny jewellery that is accentuated by its carry case that also has the appearance of a small jewellery box. The case appears to be identical to the one provided with the EA2000, so it has 3 holders for the exchangeable plugs that are not present in this model. I don't have a problem with this personally, as they are sibling products. Provided are also 2 identical sets of silicone tips and a Velcro cable tie. Each IEM houses a single 10mm dynamic driver with a vapor deposition coating of purple gold. Purple gold is a gold alloy with a ratio of 79% gold and 21% aluminium, and this is, as far as I know, the first instance of it being used as a driver coating. In my experience, gold vapor deposition coated drivers have been involved in some of Ultrasound's better sounding headphones. Yes, I do realize that is an oxymoron for some of you, and since purple gold is lighter than gold, I had some biases or expectations going into this. Paired with each driver is a passive radiator. I didn't find any documentation in the box or online about the size of the passive radiator, but looking at the CAD pics online and measuring the vent size, it appears to be 5mm. Regarding ergonomics, I found that these fit better than the EM6L, and fit my ears better than the average IEM, but I also found the stock tips useless for my ears. In the end, I settled with some tips that I believe are from Linsol, however I don't recall the exact model. If you know which model these tips are from, please leave a comment below. Other than that, the wearing comfort was also above average despite the added weight. The tuning of this IEM from an engineering point of view was something I was very excited to experience. The concept of passive radiators in a listening device is not a new concept. They have been used in loudspeakers at least starting in the 1960s. Let me know if you know any earlier models. And in headphones, the most famous example is the 1975 AKG K240 Sextet with its 6 passive radiators. Now, I finally get to hear it in its miniaturized form. The acoustic effect to my ears presents music quite differently to other more traditional IEMs. Compared directly with my JVC HAFW1800, the JVC gives that more traditional, direct, accurate, in-your-head IEM sound. The EA1000 has a sort of forced, holographic quality to the sound, especially horizontally. There are elements of music that appear to be spaced very differently. I think the stereo image might be a little broken or diffused. This becomes very apparent when playing 3D video games, which actually was a very jarring experience, with most of the sounds appearing to be coming from either the side or from behind, even when they were happening in front of me in 3D space. For normal stereo music, however, this IEM does a very tasteful job of taking the stereo mix and spacing it out in an almost ethereal way. It's not a purist sound, or technically accurate, but it is mostly very enjoyable, and in my opinion has succeeded in doing something unique in trying to take the listener out of that closed headspace and into something bigger. Regarding the purple gold vapor deposition coating, I can't tell if it's changing the sound. We do know that this technique has also been used in headphones since the 1980s, when the biggest Japanese brands fought to put the most exotic material coatings on their drivers, including sapphire, ruby and diamond, to name a few, to increase the rigidity of the transducer diaphragm, thereby reducing distortions in the driver's surface. In any case, every time you change nozzles on this IEM, you may catch a glimpse of the alluring purple gold coating, which is, at the very least, something to smile about. Moving away from the abstract, I never felt wanting for resolution or transient response. Technically, the drivers are doing an awesome job of digging out detail in recordings and even have higher than average separation, which they absolutely should have at this price point. Timbre and tone is definitely on the brighter side, with vocals especially being pushed quite far forward due to the elevated area around 5 and 6 kHz. My ears hate ear canal gain, so pulling this area back around 5 decibels with EQ brings these back into a normal tuning, after which timbre is excellent. I've always been a big fan of single dynamic driver IEMs, which often have offered a far more homogeneous sound compared to mixed transducer IEMs or headphones. Bass is still just a hair's width into the bloomy territory, and treble is also a margin's width into the splashy zone, so it's not perfect, but neither do I believe that was the goal of this IEM to begin with. Passive isolation is the only part of this IEM that I would consider a weak point, as it is average at best. Now on to the interchangeable nozzles. They do two things. Firstly, they reach 3 unique acoustic targets. That's very simple to understand, with the biggest changes occurring between 2 and 3 kHz and 5 and 6 kHz. Secondly, the way these nozzles do this is with the use of physical acoustic filters, or lack thereof, which brings me onto an important tangent. The black O-ring filters use foam to tune the sound. The red O-ring filters are fully open nozzles without any acoustic filter. The copper-colored nozzles appear to use a thin piece of fabric with a hole in the middle. The most important difference for me personally was between the red and copper and the black. The black nozzles, filled with their foam, totally alter the presentation of the IEM, going from that uniquely crafted holographic space to the ordinary, in-your-head, boring, traditional IEM presentation. The emptier copper and red nozzles both preserved their unique sense of space and staging that I think makes these IEMs so different. I would go as far as saying that the black nozzles ruin the sound. Of course, on paper it doesn't appear that way, but the squiggly lines never tell the whole story. In the end, I settled on the copper nozzles with their fabric donuts. These preserved the holographic aspect of the sound and, at least to my ears, provided a little bit more bass texture while taming some aggressiveness in the treble. In the end, I found that tuning the IEM by EQ was far more productive. However, it was also not without its limits. Comparing the EA1000 again with the JVC HAF-W1800, which follows a very similar tuning philosophy, I found that the EA1000 does not take kindly to a bass boost. To my ears, both IEMs suffer from a slight lack of sub-bass slam. The JVC takes EQ like an absolute champ, blasting out relatively clean, thunderous bass well into the XS. The EA1000 unfortunately gets bloated, and instead of churning out deep slam, you get a thick mud. But let me be clear, the stock bass tuning, texture, and presentation is already almost perfect. I think most people would only be concerned with EQing the upper mid-range and maybe the treble. So to summarize, build quality, check. Ergonomics, check. Objective sound qualities, check. Objective tuning, mostly check. Subjective sound presentation, this is where I draw the line on giving a full recommendation. There will surely be people who do not like this because it is deviating from the objective truth. I can only give full recommendations on products that I believe have the highest chance of pleasing the most ears from a subjective and objective perspective. So while I think the acoustic presentation of these is really special and truly enjoyable in the way it makes music more alive and even euphoric sometimes, particularly in its presentation of vocals and upper mids, I think depending on the type of music recording or other tasks it may be given, like video games or TV, there may be people who actually become dizzy from it. Even I found that with some specific electronic music tracks, because I couldn't quite place the stereo image in front of me, my brain found dissonance between reality and expectations, and I almost got something close to motion sickness, which was very quickly remedied with a different piece of music. I also might be an outlier since I also easily get VR sickness after 5 minutes of gaming, but it might be something to look out for. Otherwise, I've been seriously enjoying using these over the past few weeks, and personally they get a solid recommendation as an IEM that is bravely doing something different and fun in style. That's it for now, take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.